He never liked unfinished sentences, yet his life was full of them. Words paused halfway, emotions swallowed before they could breathe, and one goodbye that stayed trapped inside his chest long after the moment had passed. He remembered the day clearly, not because it was dramatic, but because it was ordinary, and ordinary moments have a cruel way of becoming permanent. They were standing near the old bus stop, the one with peeling paint and a bench that always felt colder than it should. The sky was soft with evening light, and people passed by without noticing the weight between them. She held her bag close, as if it could protect her from what she already knew. He wanted to say something meaningful, something honest, something that would make her stop. Instead, he asked if she had eaten. She smiled, that familiar smile that always made him feel safe, and nodded. That smile still visited him in quiet moments, appearing without warning, like a memory that refused to fade. The bus arrived, doors opened, and time suddenly became loud. She stepped forward, then turned back, waiting for him to say what his heart had been shouting for years. But fear is faster than courage. He thought there would be another day, another chance, another version of himself who would be braver. He raised his hand in a small wave, a gesture that felt like betrayal even as he made it. The bus doors closed, and just like that, the goodbye was over, even though it was never spoken. Life moved forward the way it always does, indifferent and relentless. He went to work, paid bills, laughed at jokes he barely heard. To everyone else, he was fine. Inside, he carried a quiet ache that settled into his days like background noise. It wasn't loud enough to explain, but it was always there. He replayed that moment more times than he could count. In some versions, he ran after the bus. In others, he spoke the words, and she stayed. Sometimes she smiled differently, sometimes she cried, sometimes she said she felt the same. The mind can be generous when reality is not. Years passed, and the world changed in small ways. The bus stop was repainted. New faces replaced old ones. But the memories stayed untouched, preserved in the exact shape of regret. He learned that unspoken words do not disappear. They wait. They grow heavier with time. There were days when he almost convinced himself it didn't matter anymore. He told himself that love fades, that people move on, that some stories are meant to remain unfinished. Yet at night, when the noise of the world softened, her absence felt louder. He wondered who she became, whether she was happy, whether someone else learned the things he never said. Once, he saw someone who looked like her from behind, and his heart reacted before his mind could stop it. He followed for a few steps, then stopped, embarrassed by his own hope. It wasn't her, but the feeling stayed with him all day, a reminder of how deeply the past can reach into the present. He tried to love again. He truly did. There were kind people, warm conversations, moments that almost felt right. But somewhere inside him, there was a locked room where that goodbye lived, untouched and unresolved. He realized that love doesn't always end when people leave. Sometimes it ends when words are withheld. On a quiet evening, much like the one they last shared, he sat alone and finally allowed himself to speak. He spoke to the empty room, to the memory, to the version of her that lived inside him. He said everything. How he admired her strength, how her presence made ordinary days brighter, how he was afraid of losing her and ended up losing her anyway. The words felt strange in the air, but also freeing. For the first time, the goodbye took shape. It wasn't heard by the person it was meant for, but it was heard by the one who needed it most. He understood then that silence can wound, but it can also teach. He learned that love requires risk, and fear, when left unchallenged, can become a lifelong companion. He forgave himself slowly, not for being afraid, but for believing that love could wait. Some loves don't ask for perfection. They ask for presence. The memory of her no longer felt like a sharp pain. It softened into something gentler, a quiet gratitude for having felt something real. He stopped wishing to change the past and started carrying it with understanding instead of regret. The goodbye he never said no longer haunted him. It became a lesson, a reminder to speak while there is still time, to choose honesty over comfort, and to never assume that silence is safer than truth. And somewhere, in the quiet rhythm of his healing, he hoped that if she ever thought of him, she remembered not the silence, but the sincerity he finally learned to give.